My name is Robert Noerr. I'm a 34-year-old lifelong resident of rural Pennsylvania. I'm running for the GOP nomination for the Pennsylvania District 12 special election for the House of Representatives. The reason I'm running is I don't feel that the average hardworking American has adequate representation in Washington, D.C., and I want to be that representation. For too long, other countries, special interests, and politicians have gotten wealthy off the labor of Americans, and it's time for that to stop and for these hardworking Americans to have a voice that's represented. How many times do we hear about problems that are occurring in big cities or the bubble of Washington, D.C.? Every day, it seems, both in our political class and our media class. But when's the last time you've heard the concerns of the welder, the farmer, the truck driver, the school teacher, and all these other hardworking Americans that labor actually makes our country run and be as great as it is? We never hear those voices. That needs to change, and I want to be a step in the right direction to hearing these voices. That's who the great people of District 12 are. They're hardworking people that traditionally aren't making as much money as a lot of these people in the inner cities. In fact, the district is below median levels in state and national median levels for income. But they are great, hardworking, intelligent people that deserve to have a voice heard. Oftentimes, it's difficult for them to pay attention to the nuance of politics because they're working such difficult jobs and such large hours, and they have families that they enjoy being with. I'm someone who has the freedom and the ability to be able to look at these issues and to understand how important these people are and represent these issues to those people and what is best for them by hearing their voices and going to Washington and advocating for those voices. I know how special these people are, the constituents of District 12, and what it's like to be a hardworking laborer because that's what I am. I've never been a wealthy person. I've never made more than $15 an hour. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to dread that your car breaks down or some other financial emergency happens. I know this because that's the life I live right now and have always lived my entire life. I know what that the people don't want handouts, just like I didn't. They want to be able to benefit from their hard work and pull themselves out of difficult times and rely on the strength of their community and neighbors, not on a federal or state government. That's what I want to represent. All of my policies and positions come from the idea of we need to get back to what the founding fathers and the Constitution intended, and we need to have what made this country great, and that was the idea of the individual, of personal liberty and freedom and responsibility. We see that the Democrats and other people are now advocating sort of socialist or collectivist policies that say the government needs to be our parents. They need to take care of all of our problems. This not only is wrong, but always leads to disasters we can see in places like Venezuela and other socialist countries that have existed around the world. What made the United States great was this idea of personal responsibility and liberty. You're treated not as your religious group or your ethnic group, but as you as an individual and what you bring to the table. What is your character? That's what made this the greatest country in the world, and we need to get back to that. I'm a staunch advocate for the Second Amendment. I feel that it is not only great for people in our district who are frequent hunters and use weapons for self-defense, but also because it's our greatest stance against tyranny. I feel one of the biggest issues we need to tackle is corruption in politics. We could see with our great President Trump and how the intel communities and unelected bureaucrats have gone after him nonstop in a witch hunt. This sort of favoritism and double standards applied by intel agencies has the potential to shake our country to the core more than any foreign influence ever could. If the FBI or the CIA or other intel groups could play kingmaker and decide to not go after certain politicians for crimes, but then go after other politicians that they don't like for the same crimes as hard as possible, including raiding their lawyers' offices in the middle of the night, then we've lost the freedom of our country, and free elections are no longer taking place. I would seek to get to the bottom of this and do whatever I could to make these types of situations and agencies as transparent as possible. Until we do that, none of the other issues would matter. I also strongly advocate for a balanced budget and the lowering of taxes for everyday hardworking people and everyone else. This also means realistically we need to talk about cutting programs, what oftentimes people that talk about lowering taxes don't want to talk about. I would end disastrous overseas regime change wars. I would advocate for ending useless bases that we have across the world. I would also advocate for ending entitlement programs that are being abused by many people. We still have to have social safety nets, but not to the extent of what they are used. Instead of being a way of life for many people, it should be just a safety branch to get to the next level of when you could work again. We also need to end corporate welfare and bailing out banks and businesses that are too big to fail. And there's many other areas we could cut. But we need to have a balanced budget, or we're affecting our future and the children that will eventually have to pay this debt back. I have many other policy issues, but they're all buttressed on this idea of freedom. They're similar to a lot of what the Tea Party and Freedom Caucus have fought for. The reason that I think I stand out as a candidate is my weaknesses would be that I don't have a lot of experience as a young person and I don't have a lot of money or connections. But I think these are my strengths. We shouldn't be electing people based on how much money they have or who they know. That's how we get to the problem where everyday, average, hardworking Americans' voices aren't heard. I am one of those people, and that's why I will represent them. I'm not going to be concerned about money. That's not why I'm there. It is a service to be there, not a job. That is why I will not be taking a government pension and I'll also be advocating for term limits. I'm not seeking to get wealthy. Once I'm out of office, the U.S. taxpayer does not owe me $1. I think that we should have other politicians that stand up, especially ones more wealthy than me, that would also refuse to take that pension. I think that the fact that I don't have these connections and I'm not wealthy shows that even though there are great people that may advocate for the average hardworking Americans that do have those things, maybe they forget what it was like to actually be someone who's living paycheck to paycheck. I know that because I'm living it all of my life and currently right now. I would seek to spend as much time as possible with these constituents. I'll be advocating for laws that say changes to legislation procedures that would say that we could actually spend more time with our constituents and use modern technology to be able to vote and for issues in Washington, D.C. That way I could spend more time amongst the constituents. I would be using modern technology to be able to communicate with these constituents on a weekly basis, giving YouTube videos about 10 minutes that showed exactly what I voted for that week and what my itinerary was coming up. I would take questions there directly from people and answer them to the best of my ability. I understand that I'm not more special or more intelligent than any of my constituents. All of their voices are equally important, and I have so much to learn from each of them and to be able to advocate for them when I get to DC, regardless if they voted for me or not. I also think that this will allow me to be sort of a person who could reach demographics with the Republican Party that have traditionally been difficult to reach, such as young people, which it seems are being kind of misled by the pie-in-the-sky idea of socialism, of everything being free. I understand as someone who's younger and has massive debt from student loans that it's appealing to hear all of this will be wiped out and everything will be free. But those expenses will eventually be paid, and they will be paid on the backs of the young people more than anyone else. I could uniquely advocate to those people using newer styles of technology and experience as to why socialism and the Democratic Party is not right for them, and the Republican is the party that they should join. In addition, in my time being someone who was involved in policy debate in colleges, I argued policy with some of the greatest minds in the country. We didn't have divisions in our debate circuit, so I debated Ivy League schools from Harvard and other such schools, and was one of the better debaters in the country. I was the first team ever, part of a first two-person team ever from my university of Clarion University to qualify for the National Debate Tournament, which is sort of like the NCAA basketball tournament for debate. So I know how to argue policy positions against people that are left-wing, for more wealthy situations and for more urban situations. But I also knew how to communicate to my friends and family back home that didn't have the time because of their hard work and their family life to be able to look into these issues. That's what I want to continue to do. This also put me in a unique position to learn how to be civil with even people that disagree with me and to be genuine and not change or pander who I am based on the crowd that I'm around. This also allowed me to meet people from all sorts of backgrounds and even convince many of them that were traditionally left-wing that some of my right-wing or more conservative ideas were beneficial. I think this puts me in a unique position to advocate for what the Republican Party needs to be in the future, the big tent party of everyone. It does not matter what your race, gender, sexual preference, color, country of origin, or any of that means or is. If you're a legal American citizen, then you are someone that should be part of the Republican Party. We don't care about all these characteristics. The Democrats are now the party of identity politics that want to judge people based on these groups. We are willing to accept anyone who believes in the ideas of personal responsibility and liberty. And I could reach people to show them in these demographics, such as minorities or single women that traditionally have not voted Republican in strong enough numbers, that the Republican Party is the party for them. And their ideas and the message of conservatism and personal liberty and responsibility is more beneficial to them than what's being offered by the other side. I also am someone who loves public speaking and loves talking about these issues. As you can see from the rest of the videos on my channel, it's nothing for me to talk 4 hours on one political issue such as socialism. And I think that will serve me very well because it's not just that I want to serve, but that I'll really enjoy doing it. I also think that the ability to reach out to these other groups will help the Republican Party as a whole in the state and national level, as we'll start to see more and more people start to come to the Republican side regardless of their demographics. I think that it's an awesome chance to be able to serve the people of District 12 and just in general, the citizens of the United States that are hardworking. I hope that more people, regular people, start to run for office. And even if I don't win, I will cheer mightily for whoever wins the Republican nomination to represent these voices and possibly take some of the ideas I have. You could look for more of my policy positions that I'll be putting videos up regularly, and I encourage anyone to ask any questions that they may have of me. Thank you so much for listening to this, and I would really appreciate your vote if I win the nomination and consider for the Pennsylvania District 12 special election. Thank you so much.